Those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable.
Revolution.
First, what is a revolution?
Revolution is the solution, hey.
The motive of a revolution.
Well, now,
The objective of a revolution.
we televise.
And the result of a revolution. And the methods used in a revolution.
I know you know. Put my gun away. Never gonna put my gun away. Put my gun away. See the mob, you better run away.
This generation of Americans has already had enough, more than enough, of war and hate and oppression.
Hello, Internet. Hope everybody's having a fantastic Thursday evening. We got a Halloween tomorrow. You guys excited? Halloween? I like Halloween. I'm going to put on that mask behind me and put on a jumpsuit, go scare people, just walk around the grocery store. Can't carry the knife. I want to, but I don't want the cops called on me either. But it should be fun because I'm like 6'6", and I can actually pull off the Mike Myers outfit. So should be fun tomorrow. All I plan on doing is going to the grocery store and driving around in my car, but I wear glasses. That's the problem. So I probably shouldn't drive around in the car with the Mike Myers mask on without my glasses. And I can't really put the glasses on over the mask because it just won't look right. It won't be as intimidating. So I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I'll try to get some video of it. How is everybody doing? If you're here, drop in the chat, say hi. Wally World, Symbolic T, Wally World over on YouTube, Symbolic T over on X. Good to see you. Thanks so much for joining and hanging out. Got a ton of stuff I want to get into tonight, and I'm not going to be able to get to all of it because I only want to go for about an hour, hour and a half max tonight. It's a weeknight. I got to be up at like 4:30 in the morning. I barely had anything scheduled at work all week this week. And then Friday, they booked me for a job, a 3-day job that starts on Halloween in San Francisco. It's the worst. So if you guys don't know, I live in Santa Cruz Mountains, so it's not exactly an easy commute there in the morning, especially when you got to be there at 6:30. All right, enough complaining. If you guys are here, like, subscribe, repost the episode, share it with your friends, tell your family, tell your parents, all that good stuff. And if you noticed, they are finally talking about how the Palisades fires were actually an existing fire from January 2nd. That wasn't all the way put out, which we talked about here 2 weeks ago. But now the corporate press is finally reporting on it. And I guess Gavin Newsom's getting sued about it. So if you watch this show, you might hear about stuff before the corporate press starts talking about it, because we like to get into the nitty gritty over here, especially regarding crazy Gavin Newsom shenanigans and all the other cronies behind him, Rob Bonta, Scott Wiener, all those scumbags. All right. The title of the show is about the SNAP benefits that are going to be ending, which when I created the show, it seemed like it was going to be more of a thing. I have a feeling that they're going to get paid out. They're going to come to some sort of agreement before the first. My dog's doing backflips behind me. I apologize. So we'll talk about that a little bit, but I'm not going to lead the episode with it. I want to lead the episode with this whole weird thing that's going on with Gavin Newsom crying and trying so hard to get on the Joe Rogan show. It's hilarious. Ross Tradamus? Ross Tradamus. What up, man? Nice to see you. EB Tisha. I don't get the reference. I don't get it, but keep going. I might understand the reference soon. So if you guys haven't noticed, Gavin Newsom's been making the podcast circuit, getting on any podcast that he can. The biggest one that he went on was probably the Sean Ryan podcast. And he had Charlie Kirk on for his first guest of his own podcast that nobody seems to watch anymore. So and Charlie Kirk did push back on him a little bit, got him to admit that that biological men shouldn't play in sports, and then he backtracked on that, which we'll get into later. But he went on the Sean Ryan podcast, and Sean Ryan did not push back nearly enough. It was super frustrating. He went on Alex, what's his last name? Alex, the guy that used to be over at I think he was at KTVU? He was at some local news station in California, and he got promoted. Now he's at CNN, and he had his first episode. And guess what? Gavin Newsom was his first guest. And of course, Alex with the E, asks him kind of tough questions, but then when Gavin Newsom starts going off on his gaslighting gobbledygook, he never gets any pushback from Alex, which is kind of frustrating. I like Alex, but he tends to give Gavin softball interviews, and that's probably why Gavin was his first guest on there. So if you push back too hard against Gavin, you're never going to get him back on your show. And if Ashley Zavala had her own show, there's no freaking way Gavin would go on it, because you see him start rocking back and forth and doing his weird Coke dance that he does whenever he gets uncomfortable. And that happened, and we'll play a clip from that too. But first, let's talk about the Joe Rogan thing. So Gavin's been making the podcast circuit and trying to get on as big a podcast as he can. And he starts talking about how first he started off saying, I like Joe Rogan's show. I like Joe Rogan, and, you know, I should go on there. But Joe, when he had on I'm forgetting his name, the quarterback, the old Green Bay quarterback. I don't even know where he plays now. Who was on there? Wally World, when is Gavin coming on CaliBased? Yeah, right. Even if Gavin agreed to come on this show, I would have him on, but I don't think it would go well. I think I would call him names and stuff, and I would end up, there's no way he would ever agree to come on my stupid little show. But if he did, it would be hard for me to contain my anger. And that's genuinely why I think Joe Rogan won't allow him on a show. I really think that, knowing the style of Joe Rogan's show, that he likes to just have conversations with people, he wouldn't be able to do it with Gavin, because Gavin is so disingenuous, so dishonest, that he might trigger Joe into jumping across the table and putting him into some sort of choke and strangling the life out of Gavin Newsom. That might be why Joe won't have him on the show, because he's nervous that he might actually snap Gavin Newsom's neck. So that's my 2 cents anyway. All right, let's go over to this clip. This is some freaking turd that's got some leftist turd who seems to be a mouthpiece for leftists on YouTube, and he's got like 1 million subscribers over on X. He's got like 120,000 followers, 112,000 followers. His name's Adam Mockler, and this clip was going kind of viral today. Fairly viral, like 335,000 views, but it's it's frustrating because people are talking about like Joe Rogan's nervous and he's like ducking Gavin Newsom, and it's not that at all. It's that Gavin Newsom genuinely doesn't like, or I'm sorry, Joe Rogan genuinely doesn't like Gavin Newsom, and they don't really have anything to talk about. Gavin Newsom is not a genuine person. Joe Rogan had Bernie Sanders on. Bernie Sanders, I disagree with his policies, but when you hear him have like a sit down, long form conversation with somebody, he can at least give reasons for the positions, why he takes the positions that he does. He doesn't try and spin issues. He talks directly, and you could disagree with him, which I do, but he is at least coming at things from a like an honest standpoint. So let's just watch this clip. Enough of me rambling about it. All right, we'll keep going here. Yeah, let's watch this clip. This is what's this guy's name? Adam Mockler. Let's see what he has to say about this, shall we? All right, Adam Mockler here.
Governor Gavin Newsom and Joe Rogan have been going back and forth for about a month now. He now refuses to even talk face-to-face with Gavin Newsom, which is where the problem lies. Joe Rogan is essentially running after running his mouth, and he's not willing to have this one-on-one conversation.
Have you been on Newsom's podcast yet?
I'm not interested. It's not like I'm opposed to talking to Democratic politicians. I'll talk to anybody. But that guy, yeah, no.
You'll talk to anybody but that guy. I mean, you'll have on Trump right before the election and allow him to spread election fraud lies, but something about Newsom is a step too far.
I think there's a California derangement syndrome, and he's part of it. I mean, I think people are obsessed with focusing on what's wrong with the state and not what's right with the state. I mean, you have more scientists, engineers, more researchers, more Nobel laureates in the state than any other state in the nation. We're the 4th largest economy in the world, biggest manufacturing state, biggest farming state. We dominate in AI and quantum and fusion. Look at the top 10 cities in the United States of America consistently. The top 5 are identified in the state of California, and we invent the future. It happens here first. We're the most diverse state in the world's most diverse democracy. We're a majority minority state. 27 97% of this state is foreign born, and that offends a lot of people.
So almost nothing he mentioned there has anything to do with California policies, being the fourth largest economy, leading in AI, all that kind of stuff that he mentioned that's all despite to the California government, not because of it. And him having Trump's running for the president. Trump's running, and he invited Kamala on, but Kamala didn't have the stones to go on there. She wanted Joe to come to her. If Gavin announced that he was going to run for president, I think Joe would have him on. But Joe used to be a Californian. I mean, to me, he still is. He's just a Californian in Texas. He left, he uprooted his entire operation and went to Texas because of what was going on during COVID. The whole comedy thing, couldn't have comedy shows. So many people have left California directly because of Gavin Newsom's policies. And he's never genuine in anything that he says. If you ask him something directly, like, okay, we have the fourth largest economy. Why are we leading in homelessness and unemployment? You always talk about the economy. Your GDP is one thing, but whether people can afford to put gas in their car, if they can afford to pay their electricity bill, if they're worried about being able to make rent, the middle class is disappearing in California directly because of Gavin Newsom's policies. People are moving their headquarters out of California, like Chevron, Tesla, I believe Cisco also did. People are fleeing California because of insane taxes, all this tax the rich, the corporate taxes. There's so many reasons to leave California and very few to stay. And the only reasons to stay in California are because of the state, the geography, the weather. It has nothing to do with the government. The government of California is doing everything they can to get people to flee. And then he brags about 20% of our population is foreign born. So we're importing, being a sanctuary state, we're importing a ton of illegal immigrants, and people that were born and raised here that can no longer afford it are fleeing. And all of this is directly because of Gavin Newsom's policies. And this is why I think Joe Rogan doesn't want to have him on, because he'll get genuinely pissed, because Gavin is doing everything he can to destroy California. Joe Rogan was raised in California. He's been here for a very long time, and he was essentially forced to leave. So what does he have to talk to Gavin Newsom about? I wouldn't shake Gavin Newsom's hand. I'd have a conversation with him, but I'd hold his feet to the fire. There's no way he'd have me on. So I put out a tweet earlier saying Joe Rogan should have Gavin Newsom on, but Joe Rogan doesn't do debates. Joe Rogan sits down and has a conversation. He probably just doesn't want to have a conversation with Gavin Newsom. Probably doesn't find him interesting, because he's not interesting. He's a scumbag. But you know who is interesting? Adam Carolla. Adam Carolla is insanely interesting, and he has a lot of things he would like to talk to Gavin Newsom about, and Gavin Newsom avoids Adam Carolla like the plague. So what I think Joe Rogan should do is say, Gavin, you know what? You are welcome on the podcast, but Adam Carolla is going to be here too. And why not? Adam Carolla is a comedian. Joe Rogan's a comedian. They both were from the same area. They probably know each other. I don't know. I don't know if Adam Carolla has ever been on the Joe Rogan podcast. I think he has, but that's what I think should happen. Joe Rogan, he doesn't do debates. Adam Carolla will. Adam Carolla will rip them apart, and it would be great to watch. Let's continue with these Gavin clips. So this is Gavin talking to, more about how Joe Rogan won't have him on the podcast, and I'll let you guys see what he compares him to.
He won't look. He hasn't for years and years. He's been attacking me, and it's one way, and he won't have me on. He's consistently not having me on. By the way, I'm moving on. I have no interest.
You're done with him?
Joe Rogan's the Facebook of podcasting. He was.
He says Joe Rogan's the Facebook of podcasting, saying he's old news, while he's on a show that doesn't get 1/10 of the viewership, probably doesn't get 1% of the viewership that Joe Rogan gets on his show. Acts like he's old news. Joe Rogan essentially created the podcast circuit. There's somebody else that he refers to as the godfather of podcasting, but Joe Rogan took podcasting from something that weird ass Tom Green did in his basement to a mainstream thing. Now everybody has a podcast, and that's directly attributed to Joe Rogan. And he is definitely still one of the most relevant people in media, in obviously in the podcasting circuit, but in just culture in general in the United States. Joe Rogan is a very important figure in shaping opinions around the nation. And Gavin calling him I'm moving on. This is the Facebook bullshit. Gavin, you are so pissed that Joe Rogan wants nothing to do with you.
Sitting across one of the brightest minds in podcasting right now. The guy was in the mic, and there are a lot of people at the mic doing extraordinary things in podcasting.
Joe Rogan's got a pretty big audience still, though.
You know what? But with all due respect, if he has a big audience but he doesn't have big enough confidence, I didn't go there, to have me on.
Well, you've called him a chicken.
But he's been attacking for. Here's the thing: these guys, they all have something in common. It's one way: they attack, they belittle, they demean, they take things out of context. But this is a serious thing.
They take things. Accuse them of what you do.
Yeah.
And so often we just sit back and go, "Oh God, I really would love to go on. Oh, if Kamala Harris just went on Joe Rogan, she would have won." It's not. It's so much deeper than that.
No, if Kamala Harris went on Joe Rogan, she probably would have lost by 50 more electoral votes, because there's no way she could sit there and have an actual conversation with anybody, much less Joe Rogan, who's going to ask her slightly difficult questions. Kamala is a buffoon.
And the unwillingness for a guy like that to even have the common courtesy to attack someone and not have the decency to say, you know what, why don't you have a chance to come on? Let's have a civil dialogue. I've watched you on podcasts with like Sean Ryan, who's a close buddy of his. He had the courtesy on me have 4 hours.
Right.
And he didn't push back on anything you said. Nothing. You are not going to be able to pull that shit with Gavin Newsom or with Joe Rogan.
Sean Hannity, folks like that. And
Sean Hannity? Really?
So if I can go on Sean Ryan and Sean Hannity, what are you worried about? Joe, you're going to cook me, or I'm going to cook myself.
I mean, he's right in the last thing he said. Joe Rogan would cook him. Joe would cut him off mid-sentence. And you guys, I genuinely think that Joe Rogan might be concerned that he wouldn't be able to contain himself from beating Gavin's ass, because that's how much he pisses off honest people that love California. Because Joe Rogan does love California. I mean, who the fuck doesn't? That's why so many of us are still here, despite Gavin Newsom. Oh, it's frustrating. It's triggering. Just listening to Gavin talk is so triggering for me. I can't take it. All right, let's see. Let's go to the chat here. Wally World, if California didn't have Silicon Valley, they would be screwed financially. No, that's not true at all. That's not true at all. They still have Hollywood, even though Hollywood's not doing as great. And we have a huge agriculture industry out here. Huge agriculture industry. And we still have a lot of manufacturing too. Lots of actual hardware gets made here. So no, our economy is like four-pronged, and but Gavin Newsom's doing everything he can to destroy the agriculture industry. And he's giving Hollywood tax breaks, and Silicon Valley companies. I'm frankly surprised more companies haven't moved their headquarters out of California. We also sit on top of California. Could be the richest state in the world. We could have the second largest economy in the world if we wanted to use our natural gas. If we want to just tap into our natural resources, natural gas. Go nuclear. We're right on the coast. We could do it if we wanted to. We sit on top of tons of oil, but we don't want to pump our crude oil. We import something like 27% of the gas that we use is imported. That's why it's so freaking high. On top of the gas taxes, on top of having the special California blends that the refineries have to create. It's all nonsense. So again, everything great about California is despite Gavin Newsom, not because of Gavin Newsom. It's frustrating. And I believe it's the fifth largest economy now. I'm pretty sure Japan took us over for that role. So here's Gavin Newsom backtracking. Let's keep going here. Casey K, nice to see you over on X. Only reason California made it to the fourth largest economy is due to the drop in GDP in Japan. There you go. The Japan GDP is expected to increase again. I think they already did surpass California, but I don't know. Who cares? They're jockeying back and forth. But I think India is right there too. So we could easily drop down to the sixth largest economy. And since Gavin Newsom says this so often, that we're the fourth largest economy, if all of a sudden he had to say that we're the sixth largest economy, that would just be such a big stain on his reputation, even though it's not really that big of a deal. But keep going. Ross Tradamus, if you spin anything they say, you know exactly what they're up to. Exactly. All right, let's go over to this clip. This is Gavin backtracking on what he said on Charlie Kirk about how women should be in men's sports. Let's check this one out.
Literally last night.
And this is how you started that podcast.
Literally last night, trying to put my son to bed. He's like, no, Dad, what time? What time's Charlie going to be here?
Oh, this isn't about men and women's sports. This is him talking about how his son loves the Charlie Kirk show. He's just so excited. He can't go to bed because he loves Charlie Kirk's show so much. That's what he was telling Charlie Kirk when he was on the show.
Time. And I'm like, dude, you're in school tomorrow. He's 13. He's like, no. This morning, wakes up at 6 something. He's like, I'm coming.
So that's your son, obviously a fan of Charlie Kirk. What was the conversation like between you and your son after Charlie Kirk was assassinated?
Well, he called me. I don't know how he got a phone, but he called me from school that day, really alarmed. And all his friends were around the phone that wanted me to somehow express or understand what was going on. He wanted to know if he was dead. He wasn't a fan of him as much as he was familiar with him. And it was very revelatory for me because he's also out there. My son is 11, 12 years old. He's sitting there talking to me about not just Charlie Kirk, but folks like Andrew Tate. And he's, sort of beyond Joe Rogan, in many ways, sort of Facebook in so many respects of sort of this novelty of the pod, manosphere, et cetera. And it was so interesting to me in that context that he knew so much about Kirk. And that was a true story. I didn't know what he was saying or stand for.
Why does he have to say that's a true story? Well, you're telling the story. Shouldn't we take it at face value that it's a true story? No, because you're a lying psychopath. So he just has to remind us, this is a true story. It's not.
Or he didn't even have a strong position himself. But you know what? He felt like Charlie was talking to him and other young men and boys. And I think the Democratic Party has failed in that respect. We have abandoned our young men and boys in terms of focusing on them, telling them they matter and we care. Young folks are in a crisis in this country. First generation in our lifetime, 30 and younger, not doing better than their parents. Suicide rates, educational attainment, dropouts, deaths of despair across the spectrum. This is code red. And if that happened to any other or group, Democrats would be jumping over themselves to identify the needs of those groups. So I appreciated that. It's one of the reasons I had Charlie on, not to debate him, but to get in under the hood and to understand why he and others have been so successful in that space. And that was demonstrably exampled by the outcome of the election and how Trump also exploited that, not with policy, but through attention. And I think we need to give it more attention. I'm doing that in terms of our executive order in the state. We're doing it at scale. And I know a number of other governors are focusing on this as well.
So he acknowledges that the Democratic Party has failed young men. Well, no shit. For decades now, young men have been demonized for even having the slightest bit of masculinity. It's toxic. They're young white men, young white boys are told that they're inherently racist. So they are inherently racist. They're inherently sexist. Masculinity is bad. And on top of that, you're telling young boys that maybe display some slight bit of feminine behavior. And you're like, oh, maybe you're a woman trapped in a, or maybe you're a girl trapped in a boy's body. Maybe you should take estrogen. Maybe they should chop your dick off. That's what they're doing to young boys. And he's confused that the Democratic Party has failed young men. No shit. And why are young men turning to people like Andrew Tate? Because Andrew Tate is, despite all of his flaws, he's at least embracing masculinity. Masculinity is so demonized in our society today and is directly attributed to leftism, the things that he backs so often. You always see Scott Wiener standing behind him, the most feminine man, the most suspicious man in California government at all. And all of Gavin Newsom's policies are anti-man, anti-masculinity. And he seems confused. He's pointing his finger at the Democrat Party like he's not the leader of the Democrat Party right now. He's got to be the front runner for the 2028 presidential election from the Democrat side. And like, this dude is incapable of taking any responsibility. He says, yeah, we failed young men, but he doesn't give any examples of how. I mean, right off the bat, you can just rattle off 3 things right there. Maybe we shouldn't demonize masculinity so much. Maybe we shouldn't tell young white men that they're inherently racist. It's all this stuff. He's such a scumbag. He's incapable of taking any responsibility or saying, you know what, we could have done this better. We could have done that better. And we need to change this. We need to change that. He isn't none of that. It's just, hyperbole. Rastradamus Joe will simply express the hypocrisy with simple questions. Gavin will just mumble his nonsense like a sweaty weasel. That's the thing, though, is Joe Rogan will okay, well, explain what you mean by this. He'll ask follow-up after follow-up after follow-up, unlike Alex, that'll just ask him one thing, let him spew his nonsense, and then won't have any follow-up. Sean Ryan sort of did the same thing. This is why I want Adam Carolla to be there, because Adam Carolla will not give him an inch, and it'll be hilarious. If Adam Carolla went on the Joe Rogan podcast with Gavin Newsom, it would do huge numbers, absolutely huge numbers. And I really want to see Joe Rogan do that. I mean, I don't know if that thought's crossed his mind, but that would be a great episode. I mean, yeah, I would love to see that. Rostradamus, put a chick in it and make her gay. Exactly. Put a chick in it and make her gay. Yeah, that's exactly. If you guys don't get it, that's a South Park reference. Great episode. All right. One more clip from this interview that Alex did with Gavin Newsom. I'm not even sure what this clip is here. Oh, apologies. Forgot to switch to it.
Rogan's point, though, which is what your critics would say, and obviously he's one of them, is that they feel like you haven't done that great a job in California.
No.
That housing affordability is a huge issue. We're highest gas prices. We've got it's more expensive to live here than anywhere else.
Okay, so exactly what he's saying is here. What would you say to your critics, like me, middle-class people, that no matter how much more money we make, that's how much more expensive everything gets, and we can't get ahead. I make over $100,000 a year, and I can't afford to buy a house. I should be able to buy a house on my salary. Could anywhere else in the country, but I can't. And I've almost given up hope of ever owning a home of my own. Electricity is off the charts, most expensive in the country, I think, next to Hawaii. And then our gas prices, off the charts. Food, everything is off the charts in terms of money, and it's unaffordable. How does Gavin respond to that? What do you think he says? It's his catchphrase.
And they blame your policies for that.
Okay, well, we've gone from the 6th largest economy since I got here to the
4th largest economy, guys. That's it. You can't afford gas. You can't afford electricity. You're never going to own a home. But hey, we got the 4th largest economy. It doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter. GDP doesn't matter to the common citizen who can't afford to pay their fucking bills. It's such a slap in the face. It's such a kick in the balls every time he says this nonsense, because none of us are seeing any of the benefits of the 4th largest economy, you fucking asshole. All of us are struggling. The middle class is disappearing. Everybody's leaving. And then you brag about how you're essentially replacing us with people that aren't supposed to be here in the first place. It's fucking infuriating. I hate this guy so much.
To the 4th largest
Still
economy.
have huge problems with income inequality. And
we were number 3 in the number of Fortune 500 companies here. We're now number 1 with 58 Fortune 500 companies. We dominate in AI, number 1 in factory jobs, and number 1 in two-way trade, direct foreign investment.
None of which has anything to do with him. All of that is despite him, not because of him.
We're a $4.1 trillion economy. I have not done the most significant housing reforms in U.S. history. We've just passed some of the most consequential housing reforms. You saw we had lower our unsheltered homeless.
And what does that mean? Housing reforms. You just say the words, housing reforms. Does that mean that houses are more affordable? No, they're not. They're not at all. We don't create any inventory. You make it impossible to build here. Go talk to any builder, any residential builder that's what they do for a living. And I'm not talking about these big giant corporations that build tract homes. They'll build an entire neighborhood. You know, you can't just go out and buy a plot of land as a private citizen and then hire some licensed contractor to build you a little 3-bedroom house, a 2-bedroom house. You can't build 2-bedroom houses anymore. In the Santa Cruz Mountains, you'll see houses that are, I mean, in older neighborhoods in the Bay Area as well, you'll see small houses on like a good amount of land, like 8,000-9,000 foot houses, square foot houses with like a big backyard, maybe like a detached garage and a front yard. You don't see that shit. That shit never gets built now. Everything's stacked on top of each other. Everything has to be built with these specific materials that are mandated by California. The windows you use, the insulation you use, the treatments on the outside of your house. It's all of it is this mandated nonsense that only increases the cost. And it's impossible to build as a private citizen. But then you give these no-bid contracts to these giant corporations that build affordable housing. They get taxpayer dollars in this circular money laundering operation because these are the same people that fund their campaigns. Housing reform. We got the most consequential housing reform. How? How is it consequential to the middle class? What are we seeing? How are we benefiting on anything that you do regarding housing? You scumbag.
That's right. You just lifted off the grievances. I'm going to list off the particulars in response. We're finally seeing real progress on homelessness. These are decades going. You saw Arnold Schwarzenegger. We had peak homelessness under Arnold in 2004. So you're absolutely right. Decades and decades, we have failed on the issue of housing affordability. Explains more things in more ways on more days about what's wrong with the
problem in the state, right?
And we have made major progress on fundamental reforms, moving from a NIMBY mindset to a YIMBY mindset, housing accountability units. We're suing cities that are not producing enough housing.
And I hate this YIMBY NIMBY thing. It's like you're one or the other. Like, yeah, you shouldn't be able to, like, if you guys don't know, YIMBY is yes in my backyard. NIMBY is no in my backyard, not in my backyard. So that's like saying if you don't want a high-rise building built in your neighborhood, oh, you're a NIMBY, not in my backyard. That's why we have a housing crisis. No, because like the Pacific Palisades, now that it burnt down, doesn't mean you should just be able to go and build a 10-story high-rise right next to somebody's house. Well, there used to be a mansion that was there, and now you're going to rezone it and build all these high-rise condos. And then they'll just call you, oh, you're NIMBY. It's your fault. That's why we have housing issues. No, we have housing issues because people can't just go buy land and build houses. Or general contractors can't buy land and build houses that aren't cookie-cutter tract homes like Rastradamus says here. Even though they built cookie-cutter tract homes back in the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, they still were built on enough land where you had a backyard, you even had little side yards, a front yard, like the older neighborhoods in California. Now, everything they build is like houses that have shared walls. There's no backyard. It's like they're houses, but they're like condos, compromised. You can't buy like an old 70s style ranch home, you know, a ranch style home that's like 1,500 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, a 2-car garage, a front yard, a backyard, you know, like there's no neighborhoods anymore. And anyway, that's the whole YIMBY NIMBY thing. And it drives me crazy.
We're flooding the zones in terms of new zoning reforms, land use reforms, and we've empowered now local communities in a way that we haven't in the past. So those are legit critiques. Those are my own critiques of my own state. But again, my state of mind is let's dialogue with these things. He doesn't want to have those dialogues. He wants to have a one-way conversation. And I totally understand it, and we've moved on.
But but you understand how for some people, a lot of those issues, what you talked about, are great for people at the top, but a lot of folks at the bottom are struggling.
Well, $25 minimum wage for healthcare workers?
And so there it is. Like Alex points out, like all these things you're talking about, biggest economy, the 4th biggest economy, all these Fortune 500 companies that are here and everything. And he's like, well, what about the people that are struggling? And he's like, oh, we gave fast food workers a $20 minimum wage. You know, tons of those positions were eliminated and turned to automation. So what he's really saying here is like, yeah, we're taking care of the top 1%. And we're also taking care of the bottom 30%. And everyone in the middle is getting fucking screwed. Everyone. We're still paying, like if you make $100,000 a year here, you're paying your federal taxes at what, 30%, 35%, and then you're paying 9% state income tax on top of that. They're taking almost half of your money if you're making essentially poverty wages in California. If you're making under $100,000 a year, probably less than $110,000 a year, you're considered poverty wages in California. You're still getting taxed to oblivion. So all Gavin talks about is how, we're taking care of, like, we've created this welfare state and we're mandating businesses pay their fast food workers $20 an hour. Meanwhile, we still need people to pick our crops for poverty wages. They always talk about a livable wage unless they're talking about illegal immigrants that they need to pick their vegetables. It's this dichotomy that they have in their head that I don't understand at all. But he's just illustrating how they only take care of the uber rich and the poor, and the middle class is fleeing because the middle class is disappearing in California. You're either rich or you're poor, and there's very little in between.
When you have 20 Republican states with $7.25 minimum wage, are you kidding? Deaths of despair, productivity, wages lower in those states, higher tax rates in Texas and Florida than California.
See, and that's bullshit. Like, how is he going to say that? See, like, it's so on its face a lie. Texas doesn't have a state income tax. Like, what? I don't even understand, because he's really good at like lying with a truth, but I don't even understand what he's doing here. You can't say Texas has higher tax rates. Like, are you talking about sales tax? Because sales tax here is like 10%, 11%, something like that. Like, it's a bold-faced lie. California has way higher taxes than Texas. Triggered.
For working people, our progressive tax rate, we just did a $60 billion tax rebate, a new bill to address the issue of utility costs and burdens. We have the most aggressive statewide rent control reforms in the nation. I go down 100 things. I mean, the work we did, seriously, on pre-K for all, after school for all, summer school for all, community schools models, work we're doing on child care, almost 200,000 new subsidized child care slots, the work we're doing on the environment, low carbon, green growth. I'm prideful of all of those things. And I can go down a list that's even deeper, but 100% right. California, for decades, has struggled with the issue of affordability. California, for decades, has had challenge in this space, but never, first time in decades, have we flooded the zone on fundamental reforms in this space. And I'm very proud of the legislature and their hard work in this space as well.
We don't need government to fix this. We need government to get out of the fucking way, is how we make California more affordable. All they do is overregulate everyone to death. I can't stand him, because he sits there and like pretend he's talking to you. You're making $90,000 a year, $100,000 a year in California, struggling to get by, and he's telling you in your face how great things are, how much he's improving things for you, when every year it gets harder and harder to get by. It's insanely frustrating, and I can't freaking deal with it. Casey K, does Gavin count someone as being sheltered homeless person if they are sleeping in a tent on the sidewalk? That's a good question. I wouldn't doubt it if he does. They lie with their crime stats all the time. They don't report that in the same way. Rastradamus, rent will all go back to BlackRock eventually. That's the other thing, is like giant corporations buying homes that would otherwise stay on the market and allow prices to drop, because if a house stays on the market too long, if a whole bunch of houses stay on the market too long, prices will ultimately drop. But if BlackRock just pays, asking value or even more, and then just holds on to the house, it keeps housing prices artificially high. It's frustrating. USA, no place like home, moving, nothing but his mouth and hands. Yeah. It's in lots of, you see how much Alex was sweating in that picture? It's because all the hot air that Gavin Newsom's blowing. Rastradamus, Arnold. Yeah, notice how he blames everything. Like, we got the highest homeless population in 2004 when Arnold was governor. We hadn't had a Republican governor in California since Reagan until we got Arnold. And Arnold he wasn't a Republican. He was a Democrat. He started the whole high-speed rail thing. But he has to put the blame on a Republican somehow. So he picks Arnold because Arnold's saying to vote no on Prop 50. That's probably why he's going after Arnold there, because, he's actually calling him out. All right, I actually got one more clip from this Alex. I think it's Alex Mickelson is his name. He's got a new show on CNN. He used to be a local California reporter, and everybody always gives him a massive amount of shit for not pushing Gavin Newsom harder in his interviews. As you can see here, he just lets him talk. Like at a certain point, you gotta, like, when he says, we have better tax rates than Texas, you gotta be like, hold on, stop. Did you just say that California has better tax rates than Texas? I mean, you just have to say Texas doesn't have a state income tax. And then he's talking about how California has a progressive income tax because the lower you make, the lower you get taxed. If you're super rich, you pay like 13.8% or some shit. State income tax. Texas doesn't have an income tax at all. So I don't understand how you could say that Texas has worse tax rates than California. I didn't think these clips were going to trigger me so much. I'm only on the fourth clip and I'm already 40 minutes in. I'm sorry I'm ranting so much, you guys. Gavin just triggers the shit out of me. All right, let's watch this next one.
Rogan's point, though, which is what your critics would say, and obviously he's one of them, is that they feel like you haven't done that great a job in California.
Yeah.
That housing affordability.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is the same clip. I just played it. All right, we'll keep going here. All right, so this is this next one. This is from Steve Hilton. If you guys aren't aware, Steve Hilton is running for governor of California as a Republican. Him and Chad Bianco are the two Republicans worth mentioning. They're actually running for California governor. And Steve Hilton, after Katie Porter's complete unraveling in the last few weeks, has shot way ahead in the polls. He's polling, but I mean, he's still only polling at like 16% or something like that because there's so many people in the race. And if you guys aren't aware, California has what's called a jungle primary system. So the top two vote getters, the top two people, whether it's a Democrat and a Republican or two Democrats or two Republicans, the top two vote getters move on to the general election. So in the primary, whoever the top two people are that get the most votes, those are the people that move on. So I've been saying for a while, Chad Bianco or Steve Hilton, one of them needs to drop out of the race before the primary and endorse the other, because you can't split the Republican vote. If the Republicans are going to have any shot whatsoever, they've got to team up and try to at least get into the general election. Because right now, like a Republican's not getting past the primary. You're going to have two Democrats to choose from, and one's going to be worse than the other. And that's the way that's just another way in which they've rigged the system. So Steve Hilton is I like him a lot, but he's a Brit. That's the thing. So, does have dual citizenship. He's got some ties to Netflix. There's some things I'd like to ask him about. Maybe I can give him some to come on the show sometime. I doubt it. He's got his own show, but I'd like to have a conversation with him. So this is about California's energy prices. And this is the former CEO of Mitsubishi, CEO Dave Walsh. So let's listen to what he has to say here.
California, has the highest, second highest electricity rates in the country, largely because the state a long time ago abolished new nuclear power at Songs and at Diablo Canyon. So we spent 40 years with them fighting that. Then suddenly Newsom flips on something as critical as energy erratically to wanting to keep Diablo open for 10 more years. No new coal in California, of course, for 20 years. The coal plant shut down with one remaining, about 400 megawatts. And gas plants haven't been built in any large quantity. So what you've got, California imports on average 25 to 32% of its electricity from neighbors. Nevada, New Mexico, Arizona, and you'll find out as governor, you won't be able to have any control over those costs through your Public Service Commission, because power made in neighboring states that you're beggaring from, you don't control through your PSC. They charge whatever they negotiate with PG&E and Southern Cal Edison, whatever they negotiate. The Utility Commission has no authority over that, over power coming in from other states, what that costs. And California is a massive importer because of the efforts to use solar and wind power. In California, solar is about a 25% capacity factor thing, meaning it's non-operational 75% of the time. Wind is operational in small scale from 19% up to 27% of the time. Therefore, the vast majority of the time, it's non-operational. Therefore, with this stuff, if you will, renewables, you need two whole systems.
So this whole green energy, California should be an energy exporter. we could have coal plants. We could have more than one nuclear plant. We could be tapping into our natural gas reserves, like thermal electrics, where you use the hot spots, like hot springs areas to generate electricity. There's a lot of different ways that California has so many natural resources and is so energy abundant, but we don't want to tap into any of it unless it's building windmills, building batteries to store the energy generated by these windmills, or solar. And then same thing, store the energy in the solar. And then we have that massive Moss Landing, I think 2 of them now, the massive Moss Landing fires out there. They're battery storage facilities. They pretend it's better on the environment, and that's what they're planning, this massive offshore wind project that I talk about all the time out in Morro Bay that's going to kill whales. It's going to turn Morro Bay into an industrialized town. It's like a quaint little surf town right now. It's going to have these big giant offshore windmills that are like the size of the Eiffel Tower. It's going to be hideous, but that's supposed to be better than nuclear or gas or any of the other resources that we can tap into. It's all a scam. It's all a scam. It's just like what they do with the high-speed rail project. Where did all the money go? That's what we're going to be asking ourselves when we're 10 years in to this offshore wind project. Nothing's built. Things are half built. You've got pylons sticking out of the water. There's no infrastructure to get it finished, to get it actually operational. We're going to get halfway into it and realize it's not done. It's not producing any energy. We've dumped billions of dollars into this and we have nothing to show for it. Where did all the money go? And it's going to be the same situation as the high-speed rail, guaranteed. All right, so let's talk about the Snap stuff. So let's see here. Check the chat here really quick. Gipper K. Devane, nice to see you. California got 2 corrupt ass cities running their whole country. Nancy Pelosi's kid trafficking. Los Angeles, that demon witch who doesn't know her ass from a hole in the ground. Big mouth. Maxine Waters, yeah. Well, don't forget Scott Wiener. Scott Wiener, like San Francisco should not have its own congressional district. If you look at, I think it's District 11, it's just San Francisco. That's all it is. They have their own congressperson in the United States representatives just representing San Francisco. And Scott Wiener is probably going to get, there's no Republican challenging him right now. There's only Democrats that I see that are challenging him. They're not going to get the backing of the Democrat Party. Scott Wiener is very powerful within the California Democrat Party, and he's probably going to get the backing of Nancy Pelosi if she doesn't run again. But that's who you're going to get. You're going to get a Scott Wiener in there, and he is 10 times, like, he's a true believer. Scott Wiener is a true radical leftist. He's a true commie, like, no joke. And you're going to get that guy. You think Mamdani's bad? Scott Wiener is way worse than Mamdani. It's Scott Wiener wants to watch the world burn. Well, he actually thinks he probably thinks he would make the world a better place, but he's a commie. That's all he is. Gipper K, I make way more money than Nancy and can't compete with her lifestyle. Damn thief. Damn. Yeah, I know. There's the whole what is it? Unusual Whales. You guys follow Unusual Whales over on X? They actually created a bunch of different portfolios that you can invest with them. And one of them is the Nancy Pelosi portfolio. And in the last 5 years, it's up like 48%. Another one is the Inverse Kramer. They have an Inverse Kramer portfolio, and that one's way up as well. There's a whole bunch of them. They have what's his name? Eye Patch McCain. What's his name? I forget his name off the top of my head for some reason. They're all damn crooks. Yeah, damn right. USA, no place like home, in their pockets. Yeah, 100%. All right, let's keep going here. Thank you guys for watching over on YouTube. Seems like there's no more YouTube viewers here today. Casey K, it is the big 3 investors-owned power utilities, which all have started major wildfires, which really drive up the average price for electricity. The 2 public power companies I know of in Redding and Sacramento have much cheaper power rates, down in the 12 to 15 cents per kilowatt hour. Man, I would kill for that around here. I mean, we're up in the Santa Cruz Mountains. We only have PG&E. There's no competition up here. All we have is PG&E. And it's frustrating too, because living in the mountains, I mean, we get trees down all the time, especially during the winter. And I mean, the PG&E guys, the guys that are out there on the bucket trucks that are like on call 24/7, sitting there until they have to go out in the middle of the night in the pouring rain and, you know, put the lines back up. We love those guys. Those guys are great. We freaking love them. They get the power restored. They're phenomenal. But the people that run those companies are freaking demons. And they're just putting money in the pockets of people like Gavin Newsom in order to, you know, keep their monopoly going. It's frustrating. All right, let's talk about this SNAP benefits thing, because Gavin is suing Trump over it, apparently. And actually, the first chat I had on this was before the show even started. This was from Michael Wayne. Oh, Central Valley. Nice to see you. I didn't see you were here. I don't know how you got in. Okay, Central Valley. Greetings from South Central Bakersfield. I like that. So Bakersfield gets a lot of they get a bad rap, but I like it out there in Bakersfield. I have fun whenever I'm in Bakersfield. And the bluffs over there, there's some fun running over there. There's some fun places to run in Bakersfield. Michael Wayne says, except EBT and SNAP are county/state programs, not federal programs. County/state fund and run those programs, not the president. But I think they get federal funding to keep those programs going, right? Even though California has the 4th largest economy, like why can't we fund those programs? All right, let's hear what Gavin Newsom has to say about the SNAP benefits.
This is about as crystal clear an argument that I've seen of the 40 plus lawsuits that we have advanced. USDA shall, their own words, 930 memo just weeks ago. They said the reason we have the contingency plan is appropriated by Congress is to, in case there is a government shutdown, to advance these funds to address and mitigate this potential looming crisis. Period, full stop. Not complicated. This is about as crystal.
Okay, so he says it's crystal clear, even though apparently this is a program that should be funded by the California government. Danger, you always come in when I need you most. You're so clutch with that. Dan Crenshaw, Eye Patch McCain. That's what I was forgetting. Sorry if I offended you, any of you guys with the Eye Patch McCain reference. I can't stand Dan Crenshaw. I think he's a deep state puppet, and he is just as bad as Nancy Pelosi when it comes to insider trading. So I'll just leave that there. USA with no place like home. Can't stand new shit. Just hearing him talk. I know. Just hearing Newsom say any words whatsoever. Watching him on mute. Not even hearing the words that he's saying, but watching him on mute and his hand motions and his mannerism and his swaying back and forth and his coke nose. It all drives me fucking crazy. I can't stand the guy. He is an evil demon. And that guy standing next to him too, Rob Bonta, just as evil. I can't stand that guy. You guys wish you had 30-round magazines back? Well, that's your guy right there. What is it? Daniels versus Bonta. That's this. I guess the Supreme Court's taking that case up too. I mean, who knows when we'll be able to have 30-round magazines? Also, right now you can possess 30-round magazines because the ones that you bought before the ban, or you bought them during Freedom Week or whatever, you're allowed to have 30-round magazines. If the Supreme Court doesn't shoot this shit down, you will become a felon overnight. At some point when this rule goes into effect, you will have to either destroy, sell out of state, or convert your magazines, your 30-round magazines, into 10-round magazines, or you become a felon overnight, just so you guys know. So if you guys have any 30-round magazines, and I know there's probably some people in the chat that do have 30-round magazines, yeah, you become a felon overnight if you get busted with that shit. So you better hope the Supreme Court shuts that shit down. All right, so that was all I want to talk about the SNAP benefits. I mean, now there's a few more things I want to say. You see all these different things that are SNAP eligible. You know, you'll see the sticker on them, SNAP eligible. I don't want to police anybody's diet, but if you need state assistance in order to buy groceries, it should only be the essentials. You should only be able to buy the stuff that's going to keep you alive, so you're not incentivized to stay on that program. You're incentivized to be like, okay, I need to figure this out, because all I can buy right now is like eggs, butter, milk, and bread. You know, like you shouldn't be able to buy cookies. I saw one thing on Amazon. It said EBT eligible. It was edible underwear on Amazon. I saw this edible underwear that's EBT eligible. Like, what is that about? At the same time, I think you should be able to buy diapers with EBT. But you can buy chocolate chip cookies, but you can't buy diapers. You can buy Doritos, but you can't buy diapers. You should only be able to shop on the perimeter of the grocery store with EBT. On the outside, fruits, vegetables, milk, eggs, butter, that kind of shit. Like if you're gonna be on EBT, you better be cooking at home. You better not be buying snacks and Doritos. And like, I would like to see the comparison of middle-class Californians that are barely getting by versus people on EBT, and just a BMI comparison. Like, which population tends to be more overweight? I'd be curious to see those numbers. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I would be willing to bet that people on EBT tend to be less healthy than the middle class that are struggling to get by. Anyway, I'll stop being a fat phobe? Yeah, I'll stop doing that. Danger, it's a misdemeanor to have a 30-round mag right now, but I think it'll become a felony. You know what? Well, since you're here, Delani, you want to freaking check that for me? Like, look up, will it become a felony to possess a 30-round magazine if the Supreme Court does not shoot that down? Something along those lines. I'm pretty sure it's going to become a felony. I know it's a misdemeanor right now. It's also a misdemeanor to concealed carry in California, by the way. If you're not brandishing your weapon, you're not just like taking it out and showing people and shit. If you get busted, like you get patted down for some reason and you happen to have a concealed carry on you, it's just a misdemeanor. Just saying. I'm not promoting that. I'm just saying that it happens to be a misdemeanor. I think I understand your reference there, USA No Place Like Home, and I'm not sure. It's funny, but I'm not going to say it. It's funny though. Okay, so there's been a disturbing trend going on, and right at the middle of it is Scott Wiener, of course. So like any bill that protects freaking sex offenders and goes after kids, you can bet your ass that Scott Wiener has something to do with it. And this is a bit disturbing. This is from Colin Rugg, and he says underage girls are being sex trafficked along a 50-block stretch in Los Angeles, and law enforcement hands are tied thanks to Scott Wiener's bill that was signed into law by Gavin Newsom. A New York Times report reveals how girls as young as 11 years old are being forced to solicit customers for sex. Sex traffickers are recruiting children online before sex trafficking them along the stretch in Los Angeles. Thanks to the California Senator Scott Wiener's bill, that would be SB 357, which was signed into law by Gavin Newsom, law enforcement can't do much. 5 years ago, uniformed police officers could have pulled up to a corner and apprehended a whole group of girls who were dressed in lingerie, hoping to recover minors among them, New York Times reported. But a 2022 bill repealed that law. I need to look into that bill. SB 357, if you guys want to Google it while you're watching. Like, that's one bill that snuck past me. I didn't know about that. So what did it do? It said that police officers can't profile prostitutes based on them dressing skimpy out. Okay, let's watch this video and see what this reporter has to say here. This is it. That's your Scott Wiener right there. You'll see that picture everywhere. That's Scott Wiener at a pride parade. Ugh.
It's one of the most notorious sex trafficking corridors in the United States, known as the Blade. It's about a 50-block stretch.
There are churches and schools, but there are also girls as young as 11
forced to solicit customers for sex. I've been following this story for more than 2.5 years. I interviewed the mayor of Los Angeles. I interviewed the city attorney. No one has been able to uproot this issue. The 77th Street Division of the Los Angeles Police Department is responsible for the northern half of the Blade.
The Vice Unit has identified hundreds of suspected traffickers. But even when officers are confident, they need to collect enormous amounts of evidence in order to arrest them and then prosecute them in court. They often rely on rescuing these juvenile girls, in part to help them escape, but also to gather intelligence about their traffickers.
Today we'll be doing a juvenile CSEC minor rescue operation starting at 1900.
The plan for tonight is to go out with undercover operators who are going to try to pose as customers.
Anyone that is youthful in appearance and is confirmed to be a street walking prostitute will be detained pending a human trafficking investigation and brought back here.
On this particular street in Los Angeles, Prostitution has always been a problem, but it's in recent years that child sex trafficking has become a bigger issue. It began during the pandemic. Lots of children were out of school. They were spending more time online on social media, which is where a lot of sex traffickers recruit children.
And after 2020, you see such an influx of women. It's a lot of money out here. These gang members notice that. If you have one girl, you can easily make $1,200 a day, easily. And the females are very reluctant to turn them in.
But as this crisis has grown, the officers say that the resources to fight it have not kept up. LAPD's Central Human Trafficking Unit has been disbanded, which means vice units like the one at 77th Street Division are having to carve out the time for this on their own. 5 years ago, uniformed officers could have pulled up to a corner and apprehended a whole group of girls who are dressed in lingerie, hoping to recover minors among them. But a 2022 bill,
Senate Bill 357,
repealed that law.
Which repeals provisions of the law that criminalize loitering with the intent to engage in sex work. You can't arrest somebody for how they look. You need to actually catch them in that act.
Now officers have to pursue girls one at a time. That requires methodical undercover operations.
One of the undercover officers identified a juvenile on social media who's planning to meet up with him for sex. They're hoping to arrange a pickup for that girl.
They have a possible juvenile detained. She's agreed to meet them at this corner, at this intersection. She told him how she's going to be dressed, and sure enough, they see her walking up, matching the description, and it turns out she's 14.
The girl is temporarily handcuffed, but she's not being arrested. This is what the squad calls a juvie rescue operation.
They're going to call children's services, and she'll be taken to get medically screened, and then placement for her. And they're going to make contact with the parents. She's very young. Hopefully we caught her soon enough.
Look at the look on that officer's face. He looks defeated. Like, imagine what he sees every night if that's the type of law enforcement that he's doing, is trying to get underage girls out of prostitution rings, because all they can do is they can only bust the girls. They can't go after their pimps. And those are the predators online that are recruiting these girls and convincing them to go out and be streetwalkers. It's, yeah, like, you know, the libertarian in me is like, yeah, you shouldn't be, like, more laws, the worse off, but not in this case. If it's pretty obvious who the hookers are, you know, when they're out there loitering, dressed in lingerie, you know, you should be able to detain them and question them, maybe not necessarily arrest them because they're not breaking the law. I mean, unless there was a law against what you can wear in public, which, I mean, when you see these pride parade and you see dudes literally pissing on each other, and then you see like kids walking by with their parents who think it's cool to bring them to a pride parade, like straight debauchery shit that Scott Wiener's a part of too. He loves that shit. It's, sorry, it's just me rambling, but like, this is like, how do we address this problem, especially with this bill being passed? And why would you pass this bill? Why would you go out of your way? Like, who are you protecting here? I mean, the girls probably aren't being charged too hard in these. They're going after the pimps is who they're really trying to get, the actual sex traffickers. The girls are the victims. So I'm curious on how they justified the passing of this bill in the first place. Like what it was meant to do. What problem was it trying to fix?
When juvenile girls are brought into the station, they're not booked for the crime of prostitution.
The vast majority of these girls are coming from the foster care system. Traffickers are able to lure them in with love and affection. Then over time, they start to rely on violence and manipulation to keep them from leaving. The DA's office has begun prosecuting more traffickers, but the reality is that 3 out of 4 girls who are rescued from the blade tend to go back to their trafficker.
New York Times actually doing some good reporting here. And yeah, it looks like Zero Hedge picked up this story too. So Newsom's prostitution law creates disturbing new sex market in LA. Yeah, they're just talking about the same thing here. Newsom signed SB 357. This law handcuffed police after a strong and sickening push by Wiener. However, none left both Wiener and Newsom out of the report and failed to explain the pro-prostitution bill, which Wiener claims provides legal support for minorities, gays, and transgender individuals. The ACLU backed the bill, saying California's law that criminalizes loitering with intent to commit prostitution gives law enforcement officers a tool to harass and discriminate against Black and trans communities, particularly women of color. The Safer Streets for All Act, that's what they called it, the Safer Streets for All Act. That's what they always do. Like the Prop 50 thing, they're calling it the anti-election rigging bill when it's literally rigging the elections. It's always the opposite of what they say. We'll take away the outdated and subjective penal code section 653.22, which has stood for too long, allowed law enforcement to criminalize and harass someone based on the color of their skin, their gender, and how they choose to make a living. That was a quote from the ACLU. The organization then claimed the stops are deeply traumatic and says they have a lasting impact on those harassed or arrested. Oh, that's traumatic. The cops stopping them is traumatic, not them being trafficked and forced to have sex for money and give that money to pimps and human traffickers. Okay, of course, it's traumatic to be arrested for a serious crime like prostitution. It's supposed to be. The goal here is for these women to escape that life and become productive members of society. Believe it or not, police and the legal community want to protect women, especially young girls, from being abused, addicted, and murdered, which happens more frequently than the ACLU admits. So that's the other thing too, is they'll get them addicted to drugs, and get them. If they get them addicted to drugs, then they're pretty much willing to do anything to get that next fix. So it's just another method of control. Sex work is deplorable on every level. It's not something that should be normalized, which is what leftists aim to do. It seems the left-wing strategy for lowering crimes to legalize everything. As some of the most marginalized members of our community, sex workers deserve to maintain their livelihood without fear of violence or arrest. SB 357 will move California one step closer to acknowledging sex workers as deserving of full dignity and respect, the ACLU continued. Look, Nevada has legalized prostitution, but the way they do it, so I've heard, is they have actual brothels that have security. The girls go through regular STD testing, and they're, from my understanding, from what I've heard, they're nice, clean establishments and that kind of thing. That's completely different from girls walking down the street addicted to crack, being trafficked by some unknown face in the background to whoever drives down the street. It's a completely different thing. And yeah, no, I don't think it should be normalized either. I'm not even a fan of OnlyFans. Like, that is a huge detriment to our society right now, but that's a different conversation. At last, we let former President Joe Biden off the hook. This is like the opinion of the Zero Hedge writer. At last, we let Joe Biden, former President Joe Biden, off the hook for his contribution to the trafficking of children. Let's not forget that this horrific crime spiked dramatically because of his pro-illegal immigration policies, opened the border to human traffickers. Frank Lutz, he's a Bay Area local, I believe, a PR expert, said Newsom might improve his image by deploying California's National Guard to help end child trafficking, especially after his administration cut police department budgets so deeply. It's time for Democratic voters to wake up and look at the reality around them. Children suffer abuse for money at the hands of the twisted perverts, and voters enable it by supporting politicians devoid of moral values. The blood of the innocent stains their hands as much as it stains Newsom's. So that's the Zero Hedge article. I didn't read the first half, but you guys get the point here. So yeah, it's horrific. It's horrific shit. So all right, we'll keep going here. We'll keep going for a few more stories. What do I want to cover here? I only got like halfway through the stuff that I wanted to cover about California. I've got two other topics that I want to discuss. I wanted to discuss the what is it? The comet thing. What is it called? Danger, help me out here. I3 some shit. I got it. What is it? Stand by here. 3I something or other. I forget. What is it? Apologize, guys. No, it's just bugging me. 3I Atlas. That's what it is. I wanted to talk about 3I Atlas. I wanted to talk about the heist at the Louvre. Did you guys hear about that? The heist at the Louvre? That shit was insane, but I'm not going to be able to get to that. I'll leave that for Sunday. All right, let's go over to this video from Kristi Noem. This is from Eric Doherty. He says, "Holy crap, Kristi Noem just announced the arrest of 46 illegal alien semi-truck drivers and 82 illegals who drove box trucks and buses. These individuals come from California, Illinois, and New York. 223 illegal aliens have been arrested and taken off our roads. Of those, 104." Okay, he's just quoting the clip, so I'll just play the video here. This is Kristi Noem.
Through that partnership, 223 illegal aliens have been arrested and taken off of our roads. Of those, 146 of them were drivers. That includes 46 semi-truck drivers and another 82 of them that were either box trucks, buses, moving vans, vehicles such as that. The CDLs that were issued to those individuals were issued from over a dozen different states. Many of those individuals could have been licensed in a state somewhere and received their CDL in another state, but overwhelmingly, these individuals have come from sanctuary states such as California and Illinois and New York. If you are here driving on our streets illegally and our highways, you are endangering our citizens and your days are numbered. I want to thank Secretary Sean. Through that partnership,
See, and in 2015, California made it legal for illegal immigrants. They made it legal for illegal immigrants to get driver's licenses. I don't understand how, like, the whole sanctuary state thing still doesn't make any sense to me. It's illegal to come here without going through the proper procedures, but they can legally get driver's licenses and all sorts of protections. I don't understand this federal versus state thing. Like, how is it not aiding and abetting having a sanctuary state or a sanctuary city? How is that not aiding and abetting fugitives? I don't get it. I've never got it. I still don't, and I don't know if I ever will. So it's frustrating. It's confusing as well. So you know what? I might leave the rest of this for Sunday. Let's see. Yeah. ICE officer, there's this thing where like tons of like ICE officers are getting hit with vehicles, like they're getting rammed with vehicles. It's happened several times now that I've seen, and this is just another. Let's talk about this really quick. This will be the last thing for the night, you guys. Thank you everybody for joining. But this is the last story I'm going to do here. So this is from Dapper Detective. He says, breaking: ICE officer opens fire in California after another vehicle tries to run over and kill federal agents without provocation. Another example of the threats ICE are facing every day as they risk their lives to arrest criminal illegal aliens imported by Democrats. So, you know, being a libertarian, I'm not a huge, I talked about this before Trump got elected, that I knew they were going to do mass deportations. I'm not a fan of the whole just randomly stopping people and asking them for their papers. I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of the way this is going down, but I knew that's what we were getting into. So yeah, I don't like it, but I also understand that this situation was created by the open borders Democrats that allowed this thing to spiral out of control. So I would much rather see the administration go after companies that are employing illegal aliens, go after police departments that are cutting loose illegal aliens, going after the states and the politicians within those states that are offering sanctuary to illegal aliens. I'd much rather see them get people to self-deport and go hard against the politicians that created this situation. However, I'm not going to get too upset about the way ICE is handling this. I know that there's too many people. There have been citizens that have gotten detained because of this stuff, you know, some for several days that are actually American citizens that got wrapped up in some sort of dragnet. And that is highly unfortunate, and I don't like it. But I also understand that this is the kind of thing that's going to happen. This is where I fight with my own political philosophy, you know, libertarianism. I'm not an open borders libertarian. That's like a huge debate within the libertarian community. I'm not an open borders one at all. But I also don't like the heavy-handed approach that they're taking towards this, but I don't have a better solution. So I'm not going to speak out against it too much. And one of the number one reasons that I voted for Trump is so he would secure the border. There's plenty of things, tons of things that I have to complain about what Trump is doing. I'm not a fan of these blowing up drug boats, alleged drug boats off, in international waters off the coast of Venezuela. What proof do we have that those are in fact drug boats? We just have to take the government's word for it. And I'm not a fan of that, but we'll leave that conversation for a different episode. And I want to hear you guys' feedback on it too, because I'm sure a bunch of you guys don't agree with me that are in the chat about the Venezuela. I know there's a lot of people that follow me that are happy that the drug boat thing is going down, but I'm not a fan of the no due process thing in that regard. They're not in American waters; they're in international waters. I wasn't a fan of when the USS Liberty got attacked by Israel in international waters. So, I mean, it's obviously not the same. It's kind of the same thing. They're not, it's not Venezuelan military, but anyway, I'll stop rambling on that. This is the ICE agents getting attacked. This is from NBC News.
DHS says this began around 6:30 this morning when federal agents were conducting a traffic stop. They say ICE agents pulled over a driver, and that's when another driver that they say was not a target pulled up in front of the agents. He was ordered to leave, but somehow authorities say that driver attempted to run agents over by reversing directly at them without stopping. That's when DHS says an ICE agent, fearing for his life, fired several shots. DHS says this.
Geez, a lot of this shit's going down in Ontario. I used to live in Ontario, so that illegal immigrant truck driver that killed killed 3 people on Highway 10, that happened in Ontario. There was this crazy motorcycle chase. Do you guys see this? Here, I might as well play that really quick. Where is it? You guys saw that? Yeah, here, I'll play this really quick. So you guys saw this. This is also in Ontario, near Ontario, at least on Highway 10. I'm sure you guys saw this footage.
Doesn't mean that this is any kind of safe. Right now, it looks like he's, bro! That's exactly what I was talking about. That's exactly what I was talking about.
Apparently that car that hit him, obviously on purpose, I heard that was an off-duty officer. So I'm not sure. We don't know anything about, Kevin Dalton was covering this. Last I heard, they weren't releasing any information. All we got is the guy's name, but we don't know his immigration status or anything like that. But there seems to be a common trend when we see these types of things happening.
Talking about.
So that motorcycle driver, apparently earlier in the day, they went to serve a warrant at his house, I believe. Let's read this article. And he shot a cop and he killed him. San Bernardino County Sheriffs. So this is a post from the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. It says, in loving memory of Deputy Andrew Nunez, with heavy hearts and profound grief, we honor the memory of San Bernardino County Sheriff's Deputy Andrew Nunez, who tragically lost his life in the line of duty on October 27th, 2025. Deputy Nunez, serving with unwavering commitment, courage, and deep compassion for the community he vowed to protect. His bravery and sacrifice reflect the life dedicated to safeguarding others, even at the greatest cost. Such devotion will remain forever attached in our hearts. We extend our heartfelt condolences to his family and fellow deputies as they face this unimaginable loss. May they be surrounded by comfort, lifted by the love of their community, and strengthened by the legacy of honor he leaves behind. Rest in peace, Deputy Nunez. Your watch has concluded, yet your spirit, service, and sacrifice will live on in every life you touched. So he got a big, there's a big motorcade celebrating his life.
Thrown in the air and somehow survived. That freeway, just opening up a short time ago, was shut down for much of the evening commute. That rush hour, absolutely a nightmare this afternoon, as the eastbound side of the 210 freeway was shut down for the investigation. I believe they've opened up at least one lane. That suspect airlifted from the freeway over to Loma Linda Hospital, where he is in stable condition and will be facing a mountain of criminal charges.
Yeah, so this is the procession they held for the fallen officer. Trying to see what happened. Okay. Yeah, that's all I got on it. Kevin Dalton was covering it. If you guys want to go to his X page, I'm sure he's got as many updates on it. He's going to be the most current person to get information from this about. They haven't, from the last I heard, they haven't released any other information about the cop killer and motorcycle rider that was taken out. But that may have changed since the last time I looked into it. So yeah, that is that's all I got for tonight this morning. Sorry to end on such a somber note. I apologize. But let's see. Check the chat one last time. Danger. We are at war with cartel with cartel, and they are all over Central and South America. No fisherman, like the left claims, has a fishing boat with 4 high-powered engines. That's fair, but I mean, dude, if they're not entering United States waters, I mean, if they enter United States waters, that's one thing, you know. But if they have, like, dude, you're declaring war at that point. I mean, I'm obviously not pro cartel at all, and this seems to be more of a trying to overthrow the Venezuelan government thing to me. It seems like it's not just about going after the drug dealers. I mean, before, you know, going up to the election of when Trump got elected, all we were hearing about was how China was flooding our streets with fentanyl, and now it's like Venezuela's somehow the culprit. I don't know. It's kind of not adding up to me, and I don't like seeing, you know, the government tell us these are drug dealers and just killing everybody on the boat. You know, like, yeah, they could all be horrible people, but what if one of them on the boat isn't? What if one of them on the boat is somebody, their boat got hijacked, or I don't know, man. Yeah, tell me other stuff that you think, but I'm not a fan of it. It's not a good look. They're in international waters. They come into American waters, that's one thing. And I mean, why can't they be surrounded and overpowered by other ships and taken into custody? Why do they have to blow up the entire boat and kill everybody on board? Like, I don't. And if you get them alive, you can potentially have people that are going to flip on other cartel members, and you can go after a wider degree of the problem. So I don't know. It just, my gut is telling me this isn't a good thing, and I'm not a fan of it. But, you know, I know a lot of you guys aren't going to agree with me on that. So, all right, I'm going to leave it there. You guys, thanks so much for joining. Danger, USA, no place like home. CC Pino. Let's see who else we got here. Casey K. Gipper K. Devane. A lot of you guys in the chat tonight. Rastradamus. What else we got? Wally World. Central Valley. Michael Wayne. Oh, shit. I didn't even check the Rumble chat all night. I'm a jerk. Let's see. Jeez, I didn't even check the Rumble chat. Hold on. The jerk I am. All right. Yeah, Rumble chat's quiet, but that might be because I didn't refresh the feed. So my bad, you guys watching over there on Rumble. I appreciate you. Yeah, that is all I got for tonight. But before we get out of here, we got to tell a joke from the greatest book ever written, The Truth About Chuck Norris. Let's see what we have tonight. You know the rules. I pick a joke. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's not. Okay. A handicapped parking sign does not signify that the spot is for handicapped people. It is actually, in fact, a warning that that spot belongs to Chuck Norris and that you will be handicapped if you park there. And on that note, stay CaliBased.